Patterson befriended the new champion and forevermore referred to him as Muhammad Ali. On February 14, 1966, the Louisville Draft Board had reclassified Muhammad's draft status as 1A, thereby making him eligible for military service. Ali had previously been disqualified because of his performance on the military's aptitude test, which gave him an IQ of only 78. Embarrassed by this, the champ said simply, "I said I was the prettiest, not the smartest." But with the war raging in Vietnam, the government had decided to relax its standards, and Ali was now facing the possibility of having to don military fatigues instead of boxing trunks. He heard the news from the media when they began calling his house and asking him questions regarding his political beliefs and his stance on the war in Asia. Frustrated by this invasion of his privacy and confused as to how the situation had arisen, Ali made a statement that would resonate for the rest of his life. "Man, I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." The papers had their headline, and the nation's columnists had a new reason to go after the embattled champion. The first effect of all of this was that his upcoming bout with Ernie Terrell was in danger of being canceled due to the fact that every state that had agreed to host the fight eventually caved into political pressure and withdrew their sanction. The fight was ultimately scheduled to be held in Toronto, but by this time many of the theaters that had been interested in the closed-circuit broadcast rights had pulled out because of the same pressure being exerted on the individual state boxing commissions. To make matters worse, the challenger, Terrell, had decided that he was no longer interested in fighting Ali in light of the fact that his pay was to be a percentage of the profits, and now there seemed to be very little prospect of there being any. This led to the substitution of Canadian heavyweight champion George Chuvalo as Ali's opponent. Chuvalo, a tough fighter whom Rocky Marciano, the only undefeated boxing champion in history, once deemed unknockoutable, went the distance with Muhammad, but lost a unanimous decision to him. Ali's next three bouts took place overseas. Fearing that he would not be able to make a living in the United States because of the hostility displayed against him by the public and the press alike, Ali's team decided that they would take their fighter and his substantial earning power to London and Frankfurt. The move made Muhammad Ali something of a folk hero to the citizens of Europe, who felt that he was making the World Heavyweight Championship available to the whole world. For over 5 decades, title fights had been fought primarily on American soil. Ali returned to the U.S. to defend his title against Cleveland Big Cat Williams in Houston, Texas on November 14, 1966. The fight was over quickly, with Williams being completely dominated by Muhammad. In fact, he only managed to hit Ali 3 times in the 3-round bout, which ended mercifully when Williams was knocked out. Ali was next scheduled to defend his title against Ernie Terrell. Unfortunately for the challenger, this time the fight would not be canceled. Terrell made the mistake of constantly referring to Ali as Clay, a move designed to annoy the champion, but one that in his present predicament only served to enrage him. The fight was and is regarded as one of the cruelest exhibitions in boxing history. Muhammad himself would even come to regret it. The champion tortured Terrell for the full 15 rounds, bringing him just short of a knockout and then backing off, only to wallop him again with further combinations, breaking his eye socket and causing his retina to swell. The entire time, Ali kept shouting to the dazed Terrell, "What's my name, chump? Say my name." Ali won the bout in a unanimous decision. His next battle would once again pit him against the might of the United States government. On April 28, 1967, Muhammad Ali showed up at the Houston Induction Center for the U.S. Armed Forces. When the time came for him to take one step forward, signifying his induction, Ali stood quietly and refused. He was taken away, and the consequences of this action were explained to him.
When a registrant refuses this first step, when his name is called, he is quietly removed from the room. He is counseled as to the seriousness of his refusal. He is given the penalties, the maximum legal penalties that this act could result in. If he again refuses, we ask him if he would give a statement that he refuses induction. If he says no, we dismiss him. If he says yes, he writes out a statement in his own handwriting. We witness it, and then we release him. We notify the draft board and make a report to the United States Attorney.
Ali responded that he understood exactly what he was doing, but that he could not, because of his religious beliefs, go into the army and kill people with whom he had no quarrel. It was explained to the champ that in all likelihood he would not serve in a combat role within the army, but would in fact be allowed to fight exhibitions and make personal appearances for the entertainment of the troops. Once again, Ali stood on his principles and stated that he could not serve in any capacity that would give aid to a war that he found to be morally wrong. That's when all hell broke loose. The Army released a press statement to the effect that Muhammad Ali had refused induction into the armed forces, and that the matter was now in the hands of the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Muhammad Ali has just refused to be inducted into the United States Armed Forces. Notification of his refusal is being made to the United States Attorney, the State Director of the Selective Service System, and the local Selective Service Board for whatever action deemed to be appropriate.
Champ, how did they treat you in there?
Down.
How did they treat you, Champ?
You get down, please.
Respectable.
To make matters worse, less than an hour after the announcement, the New York State Boxing Commission stripped Ali of his license as well as his title. All other boxing commissions in the country followed suit before Muhammad had even been charged with anything, much less convicted. Muhammad Ali was no longer the heavyweight champion of the world. The title that he had worked so hard to earn for most of his life was gone in an instant. He also had no chance of regaining his title in the ring anytime soon, seeing as how he could no longer fight legally in any state. The overseas prospects were better, but in a move that many saw as vindictive, the U.S. government also stripped him of his passport, thus leaving him without a way to earn a living to support his new wife Belinda or the first of their 4 children.
The right of dissent is tremendously important in this country. We must preserve it. We must even encourage it, because by dissent you produce change, and through change you produce progress. And so therefore, let's have dissent. Let's have change. Let's have progress. That's the American story in the past, and that's what we want for the future.
Ali had unleashed the full power of the establishment against him, and many thought that this was finally the end of Mighty Mouth. They couldn't have been more wrong. Never one to lie down, in the ring or out of it, Muhammad fought back with his greatest weapon, himself. The anger about the Vietnam War had now spread to institutions of higher learning. Because of the controversy surrounding him, colleges all over the country were clamoring to get the now former champ to come and speak at their campuses.
The black man has been brainwashed, and it's time for him to learn something about himself. When he look at television, he see White House cigars, White Swan soap, King White soap, White Rain hair rinse, White Tornado floor wax, White Plus toothpaste. They taught him when he was a little boy that Mary had little and his feet is white as snow. Then they taught him about Snow White. Then there's the White House. Everything bad is black. So he's been brainwashed. So now he needs to be taught something about himself so he can be proud and quit worrying you and pushing you out of your neighborhoods, quit running your daughter, and quit chasing you out of your schools. And every day you got a headache with this Negro that has been brainwashed by your kind. So now it's our job to re-brainwash him, to teach him that rich dirt is black dirt. Don't feel bad. Strong coffee is black coffee. You understand? You make your wheat integrated. So now he feels proud. Now he's not begging no more. Now he wants to be himself. He's not worrying you no more. So he needs some black history, and he needs some black culture, so he'll know who he is and be proud to be who he is and quit worrying you so much.
Any white woman in this audience today, any white man in this audience today, in their right minds, don't want little black boys and little black girls coming around your homes, schools, and churches looking to marry your sons and daughters, and in return introducing your grandchildren as little half-brown, kinky-haired Negro children.
And speaking was something that Ali did almost as well as fighting.
We're not seeking to lose our identity in blood mixing. and our beautiful black African history. We don't hate you. We don't hate those of you who are white. We just want to stay black. We love my color. I just love myself.
In his speeches, he focused on his ongoing fight with the U.S. government, as well as his feeling that he had been unfairly barred from his profession.
I would like to hear this from you. I would like to hear this from you. And I want the world and the cameras to hear. Who's the heavyweight champion of the world?
The events took on a revival meeting flavor, with Muhammad leading the crowd in a call and response of "Who's the champ?" and the crowd shouting, "You are." He also spoke out fervently on black power and pride, as well as proving that he was perfectly willing to go to prison if that was to be the consequence of defending his religious beliefs.
I said that I'm going to be a man, I'm going to fight it legally. If I lose it, I'm just going to jail.
The battle raged on in the courts, with Ali sticking to his guns just as stubbornly as the government stuck to theirs. Eventually, the whole thing wound up in the U.S. Supreme Court. And in true fashion, Ali emerged the victor by a unanimous decision. The charges were dropped, and Muhammad's long nightmare, one that had plagued him for 7 years, was finally over. Almost. The next thing on his mind was regaining his title. It would be a long road. The last time Ali had fought in a ring was an exhibition bout against former heavyweight champion Rocky Marciano in 1969. Ali made his real comeback to the ring with a fight against Jerry Quarry in Atlanta, Georgia on October 26, 1970. The bout didn't last long. Ali knocked Quarry out in the 3rd round and declared that he now wanted a shot at Joe Frazier, who held what Muhammad thought of as his personal property, the heavyweight title. But it would not be Frazier whom Ali next met in the ring.
Why you no go to the army? I will tell you Monday night in the first clinch. Chicken, you chicken. Chicken. Good deal. Keep talking. Chicken. Keep talking. Now I know you're going to get a whooping. He never should have started talking. Not with Muhammad Ali. Clay. You Clay? I said Muhammad Ali. Clay? You will call it when the fight comes on. Clay? Wait till the fight comes on. Please tell everybody to get to your theaters. I've never had a man that I wanted to whoop so bad.
His next fight was against tough Oscar Bonavena, who managed to keep getting up for the full 15 rounds, taking a great deal of punishment in the process, but also dishing out an amount of abuse that Muhammad had never had to withstand before. It was an ominous precursor. The fight of the century, as it was billed around the world, would take place in Madison Square Garden on March 8, 1971. Finally, Ali was to get his shot against Smokin' Joe Frazier.
Traditionally, I have the real belt, and for Joe Frazier to be a champion, he's got to beat me. See, those eliminations are only imitations. He's not the real champion.
People all over the world were awaiting this bout.